YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with our reaction to the top 10 of the top 100 players of 2020 list. Did this video for every single ranking, and now we're on to the top 10. We're going to compare the NFL Network list voted by the players to my list that was done at the end of the 2019 season based on the 2019 season. After this video, we'll take a look at the guys that made my list that did not make the NFL Network list. So basically the snubs. I got 32 of them, so it should be interesting. And then we'll eventually update our rankings here at the Goat House, and I'll have all kind of predictions coming up for the 2020 NFL season and full coverage in season. So please subscribe. Trying to reach that 60K goal. No one covers the NFL like we do, so you're going to want to subscribe, turn notifications on. Check out that Twitter as well. It's a must follow for Goat House updates and NFL updates. And check out the podcast, the recent podcast episode we discussed the top 100 that far, up to that point there. So any link that you need to any of those things, you'll find them down in the description and in the comments. And it's something new. We got brand new merch. I think some people have been asking for this too. The Goat House is back, so the intro saying on the merch, if you click on the items when you go to that link, we'll put a link down below too, but if you click on the items, there is some more color options available. So would appreciate if you could just look into those things. Really appreciate the support. It makes all these things possible here, so appreciate everyone. But Derrick Henry came in at number 10 on the 2020 NFL Network list there, and for me, I ranked him at number 3 based on the 2019 season alone. Not factoring in what all these players did on the past. As soon as the 2019 season ended, I made my top 100. Derrick Henry was that dominant, the third best player in football, in my opinion. I thought he was the best running back in football. I don't want to say carried the Titans because the defense played pretty darn well. Guys like A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill stepped up. The offensive line stepped up. But Derrick Henry was, the key piece to the Titans' success all the way to the AFC Championship game. Taking away, like, the Super Bowl, obviously, the Chiefs ended up the best team. Taking that away, down the stretch of the season, the Titans felt like the most dominant team in football. So, and I think a big reason was Derrick Henry. And it was kind of one of those situations where you knew it was coming and you still couldn't stop it. You knew you was getting the ball and you still really couldn't stop it. Just pure domination, from Derrick Henry. So I ranked him at 3. They ranked him at 10. Not too far off, but I think he should have been ranked a little better than 10, but it kind of goes back to depending on what this list is based on. I think it's kind of a mixture. Some guys vote towards what they did this last season, and some people vote for it just in general. What's like kind of the build-up these players have created for themselves over the last several years. So I can't really blame the players. Everyone's got their different opinions, different perspectives, but it gets a little confusing on what it's actually based on. We need to base it on something. But Derrick Henry, 10 for them, 3 for me. Next, Stephan Gilmore. Yeah, so right there. 9 for the NFL Network list, 10 for me. Defensive MVP. He wasn't my pick for defensive MVP. We'll talk about that guy at the end of this video. We'll recap my top 10 at the end of this video. But Stephan Gilmore, in my opinion, though, cornerback is probably the second hardest position to play after quarterback. That's my opinion. I feel strongly about it. It's just so hard to play, especially if you're running a little more man. Yeah, that's one, specifically man coverage for a cornerback might be the hardest thing to do in football. Press man, I should say. Gilmore does a lot of that. The technique is just perfect. The ability to read the quarterback and the receiver at the same time, perfect. And the guy's just a beast. He's got every part of the game locked down. I only think there's some really good corners, but I only think Jalen Ramsey has the talent to kind of compete with that number 1 spot going forward. Stephan Gilmore, deserve, even though he wasn't my vote, deserving of the defense MVP still. Top 10 on my list, top 10 at number 9 specifically on the NFL Network's list here, voted by the players. So, not surprising whatsoever. DeAndre Hopkins was number 8 for the the NFL Network list here. I ranked him at 34. Again, my list was based on the 2019 season. He played outstanding. It's tough to really narrow it down. It's tough to compare positions. I just had 33 players, better than DeAndre Hopkins on the year. So, I thought, in terms of production, in terms of carrying a team, that kind of went into, just what barely separated, like once you get in the top 50, maybe even the top 100, all these guys. So I just thought there was 33, more dominant players and, pieces that were more important to the team. But obviously a very good player. If we're ranking, again, mine was on one season alone. If we're ranking in general, yeah, he's pretty close to the top 10. And we'll update. We're talking about it here at the Goat House. We were talking about it in the podcast. We're thinking about taking, because we got 4 guys here at the Goat House, involved here, and we're thinking about making our rankings, kind of like the players do. They write out their top 20 or so, and we're going to do that, and we're going to kind of combine them. So that's in the works. So we'll see what a guy like DeAndre Hopkins ends up. But a little bit of a difference there on where he was ranked. But again, mine was based on one season. Next, George Kittle, one off again. We had a bunch of these, no matches, exact matches, in terms of the rank. But one spot off, ranked number 7 on the NFL Network list, ranked 8 for me. Dominant season, much improved, even though he was already very solid. That's what you love to see. Players that were already like really good and they just improve. They keep on improving. He came into the league already known as one of the better blocking options as a prospect, and he kind of turns out to be one of the better blocking options, maybe the best in all of football in terms of the tight end. And he catches the ball at a high level, and the run after catch ability is ridiculous. Definitely deserving of being up here, even though he's a tight end. I think what's underrated about the tight end is they have to be able to do a lot. They have to be able to, and we just explained it, the ability to block, the ability to get open, the ability to catch the ball, and then run after the catch. The combination of that is just simply magnificent for George Kittle. So he might continue to climb for me at least. We will see going forward. He needs a new contract, but you see him going for 29-7 in the NFL Network list in a year, so that's very impressive there. Next, Christian McCaffrey, one spot off once again. They ranked him 6. I ranked him 7. Yeah, you got to appreciate the abilities here, how much there is to Christian McCaffrey's game. Basically can consider him a receiver almost as well. Total package guy. And yeah, that's another debate. Kind of debated this just talked about it in the latest podcast episode. If you're ranking positions, if you're just talking pure running back, or I kind of brought it up with the quarterbacks, your rankings may be different if you're combining all positions. You take away the position who are the best football players. McCaffrey having that much to his game definitely helps his cause in a ranking system like this, where it doesn't really matter about your position. It's just football players in general. And you see him go from 42-6. Love to see that. Just one spot off there in the rankings. Next, number 5, one spot off again, Michael Thomas. Number 5. If I'm not mistaken, I think we had a match on Michael Thomas last year in terms of where he was on the last year list versus my 2018 list. But one spot off. They rank Michael Thomas 5. I rank him 6. There's no way we should. Other players could get better, but Michael Thomas, I think, only can get better from here in terms of his talent. Obviously I think he's a total package type of guy, and I think it's scary that it actually could get better. This could be the last year of Drew Brees, so we'll see what happens after that. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see, it's sad to see a guy like Drew Brees. Drew Brees could have 2 years left, so this might not be the last year, but the way the contract laid out, it possibly could be. But why I kind of get excited to see how Michael Thomas is with a different quarterback. I think he's going to be great still, because just the talent and what he's adding to his game. But just kind of thinking about, what if it's Jameis Winston, and you see how much Jameis Winston threw the ball. He turned the ball over, too much. That's why, maybe one of the reasons why Drew Brees is better. But you see him just air it out, and you see Mike Evans and even Chris Godwin just being dominant. So just airing out that many times, the ability to have that much juice within every single game, because he's a younger option there. He can just air the ball out that many times. Michael Thomas could actually have more production, but Winston only on a 1-year deal. That's just something I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. I'm kind of just thinking about for the future. But obviously another big year definitely coming for Michael Thomas. I think he's underrated in his footwork department. I think that's getting better every week, not just every year. So excited to watch him this year. Another one spot off there, and this was just a shocking one here, an absolute shocker. Number 4 on the top 100 players list, Patrick Mahomes. And if you watch the show, they kind of give you a little hint at who's about to be next, and they kind of show a quick little clip of the guy that's about to be next without actually saying he's next. They kind of done that throughout the whole top 100, and that was happening with Mahomes, and I'm just saying, no way. No, they're trolling us right now. All of a sudden, it's going to flip to a different player. There's no way Patrick Mahomes is 4, and Patrick Mahomes is 4. He stays at number 4. With my rankings, I factor in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, which obviously was played in 2020, but it's part of the 2019 season, obviously. I factor that in because going into the year, the ultimate goal is winning the Super Bowl. That's what it is. So I definitely factor that in. Mahomes, the best player in football, in my opinion, on the year, could be in general. I put him at number 1. Really wasn't, even though somebody else had an MVP season, and we'll talk about, and had a great season, there wasn't really too much thinking about it. Probably would have been interesting if Mahomes didn't win the Super Bowl. That would have been interesting for me. But he did. He won it at number 1 for me. Surprise, he's number 4 for them. To me, the only reason he's not 1 is if, kind of backtracking to what I said, because if you rank Patrick Mahomes, if you rank quarterbacks and you're thinking quarterbacks, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, I think most people would rank Mahomes 1, Russell Wilson 2, Lamar Jackson 3 if we're talking those 3 guys. And why would most people rank it that way is because you definitely factor in, because we're talking quarterbacks, you factor in throwing. Lamar Jackson, very underrated passer, getting better. I definitely am confident with him, but it's a no-brainer that Mahomes and Russell Wilson are better passers. But if you're combining all players, it doesn't really matter about position. You're just talking who are the 100 best, or who are the best football players. You kind of factor in who has the most abilities, who has the most of their game, and that's where you kind of factor in Lamar Jackson maybe being ahead of those guys that he wouldn't be ahead of when you're talking just quarterback. So that's interesting to think about. I think a lot of people will probably have it the same either way. A lot of people will maybe have it a little different. I can persuade myself either way. It's pretty interesting stuff. So that my thinking was, at this point, in that aspect, Lamar Jackson has to be 1, but I still don't know how Mahomes isn't top 2, in my opinion. And then we move on to who was number 3, Aaron Donald, and this is where people are going to get at me because I had him ranked 17 based on last season alone. People didn't really complain about it when my video came out at the end of the 2019 season. Now I already know people are going to complain about it. They have been in the recent reaction videos about where guys are ranked. I think people forget on what actually happened in that one season because we're getting ready for another season. We're kind of just combining seasons alone. Aaron Donald was very good, very, very good, number 17. There's some other guys that were actually more productive than him that I had way lower than him at 17. He was better ranked. I think the presence, the impact he makes, the game plan around him, even though he had less production, some of those guys made him better. But just because he's Aaron Donald, doesn't mean you automatically have to put him in the top 10 or automatically at 3, whatever it is. I think when players vote, they keep in mind what he's capable of. He had a very good season. It just wasn't the same as the last couple of years. So, again, mine was on one season alone. When I say in 2019 season, I mean that season alone. So I don't give bonus points. I think there's a lot of people complaining that just expect to see the same names at the top every single year. That's pretty lame, I think. If they had that good of a season, yes, why not? I'm just going to rank what I saw on that year. But Aaron Donald in general, and we're going to update our rankings. Like I said, we got something. We're in the thought process, the thinking process, how we're going to do it. We're going to update the rankings based on how players are right now today, where we would rank them, and Aaron Donald is going to be towards the very top. But mine, again, was based on last season. I'm not really surprised by the 3 or anything. If I was predicting, I was kind of thinking 2, actually. Just prediction, what they were going to do. But a dominant player, obviously, to get that much, pass rush that is not an actual edge rusher is probably the most important, or the most impressive thing there. Number 2 was Russell Wilson. I at number 4, so yeah, not too far off there. The thing you got to factor in Russell Wilson is I don't know if he has. He's got some good weapons, but you took Chris Carson away in the playoffs because he got hurt. You take that away. You basically have 2 receivers, even though they're a pretty good duo. They both made the list. One of them made my list. You only have kind of the 2. You have the tight end injuries. In the offensive line, you compare the offensive line of Russell Wilson compared to the other top-tier quarterbacks, not just the very top, a lot of them, maybe minus Deshaun Watson, which they're heading in the right direction, that Texans offensive line. So, but my point is Russell Wilson just doesn't have anywhere near as good of an offensive line as them. So you got to factor that stuff in too. So do you almost give him kind of bonus for that, because what he's able to do, throwing the ball with his legs and, keeping plays alive and being clutch, absolutely clutch down the stretch of the games. But yeah, it's so close there, and we'll see my top 10. I'll recap my top 10 on the 2019 season list, but I did have him at number 4. They had him at 2. I don't really have any problems with that. And number 1 was Lamar Jackson. They had him at 1. I had him at 2. If we're talking just regular season, obviously number 1, well deserving of the MVP award. And I love this. Even though I have Mahomes at 1, I love seeing Lamar Jackson at 1. Always been a Lamar guy. At Louisville, coming out of the draft, I was a full believer. Was my number 2 quarterback, and I'm mad at myself, even though it looks pretty good on what I said and where I ranked him. I'm so mad at myself for not having him 1 because I liked him that much. I did have Baker 1, which I still believe in, but Lamar Jackson, yeah, absolutely doubted. They had, everyone had players like Sam Darnold ahead of him, in that class. So, and then some people just thought he wasn't going to be able to be a passer. He wasn't going to be able to be a quarterback. So I just love seeing him being that good and that much of a threat, of an impact player. The whole game plan has to be around Lamar Jackson. And there's some people that think, and it's a good, not a good thought, but it's a logical thought that teams can start to kind of figure it out. We've seen the Titans kind of do it a little bit, but there was some drops in that game, or maybe some throws that Lamar would want back that if you just adjust something slightly, even though the Titans game planned well, the Ravens could won that game still, because that's how talented they were. But yeah, there's some people that think, maybe teams' defenses, another go at it, because remember, some of those teams only played them for the first time in that system last year. Some teams played them twice in the division. Some teams didn't play them all. So the more time goes by, they figure out Romans and Lamar Jackson's offense. It's possible some teams can slow them down. It's just one of those things where it's easier said than done. You can know what's coming, but you can't really stop it. So I'm still definitely a believer. And the crazy thing is he actually can improve as a passer. So that's what I'm very excited to see. So Lamar Jackson, even though I didn't have him 1, definitely well deserving. Because there's different ways you can look at it, and different ways you can debate that this guy can be number 1. So, it's kind of surprised, though. Kind of surprised Mahomes wasn't 1 still. But once Mahomes came off the board, number 4, I kind of knew Lamar Jackson was going to be 1 there. But looking at recapping my top 10 from the 2019 season, I had Stephan Gilmore at number 10. We talked about him within this video. I had TJ Watt at number 9. I thought the impact that he had, not just really getting pressure, getting sacks, dropping back, got his hands on the ball quite a bit. George Kittle was number 8. We talked about a lot of these guys. George Kittle 8, Christian McCaffrey 7, Michael Thomas 6. I had za'darius Smith as my defensive player of the year. That was my pick for the 2019 season alone, just that season. Obviously has more to do to kind of build up that reputation to be a number 5 player in general. But I was just so impressed with him. I think he made his teammates better. He created for his teammates. Usually those guys don't get crazy production, but I thought he had crazy production. He always showed up at the right times, the impact times to change the game. He basically played, and he talked about it himself if you watched his segment of the Top 100. He plays all over the place. He doesn't just play edge rusher. He rushes from different spots. We've seen him line up on the defensive line. We've seen him line up off the ball, almost an inside linebacker, even though he was rushing. He does it all, and I could appreciate that so much. He's more than one position. Russell Wilson was number 4. Derrick Henry was number 3. Lamar Jackson 2. Patrick Mahomes 1. Again, Lamar Jackson was the king of the regular season for me, so number 1 in the regular season. The ultimate goal is winning the Super Bowl, winning in the playoffs, getting a run there. Not that the Ravens didn't reach some goals. Obviously, they did last season, but that was kind of a deciding factor in Patrick Mahomes number 1. Again, you can see at the bottom there, I'm going to do, I'm recording this. This is actually coming up here on the 30th here. I'm hoping the snubs video, I get it up tonight as well. I definitely should. So on the same day you're watching this video. So what I'm going to do is take the players that were on my list that were not on the top 100 players list, the official one, and I actually have 32 of them. So that's pretty interesting. We had a top 32 snubs list, and we're going to see where I ranked them. And then somehow, some way, we are going to update some kind of rankings, even if it's not top, full 100. But we're going to try to combine all of our opinions here at the Goat House and on players and how they are at this moment. Because again, some people don't like that my last top 100 is based on this last season. That's just usually how I do it. But we're trying to give you as much as possible here. So we're going to get on that. All kinds of predictions and rankings on the way leading up to the NFL season. And then we have full coverage in season. I cannot wait. My favorite videos on this channel. We got tons of videos too. Favorite videos are our weekly pick'ems videos. So I cannot wait for that. So please click that like button. Please subscribe. Turn notifications on. We'll really appreciate it. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.